Hey, let's do a quick cold open before I play the music.
Cool, let's do it.
Okay.
Delando, guess what underwear I'm wearing?
What underwear are you wearing?
You know.
Are you wearing the underwear that I got you at the Chicago Comics and Entertainment Expo?
I sure am.
Courtesy of DC Comics?
I'm wearing the red trunks.
That's great. Hashtag the trunks are back.
That's all he's wearing.
It's a totally auditory medium. You can't tell.
Listen, season 4, we're leaving it all out there.
That's so great.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously we'll be talking about C2E2 in this episode, but I ran into you on the Sunday of the show.
Sunday, yeah.
Right before I moderated the panel that I did on comics retailers. I saw you outside the panel room, and he gave me a big hug, and you asked if I had gotten the red trunks that DC was giving out earlier in the show. I told you I hadn't, and you were like, wait here, don't move. And you disappeared into the darkness, and then a couple minutes later, you emerged holding up these red trunks. And they're fantastic. They're very comfortable.
They're very nice, right? Yeah. Well, you neglected to mention that it was also your birthday.
It was,
and
yes.
I didn't get to do anything, obviously, because I was just going crazy at the show. And I was like, I know I have a pair of these, and I know that he will love them. I'm glad that they fit you, because they do not fit me.
So you got me the extra large.
Yeah.
I think if you had gotten me any smaller, they're very...
It's a little snug.
Yeah. It's a very small cut there. But have you worn yours?
I attempted to, sure.
All right, you try. I know there are probably people listening to this, collectors, who are highly offended that I would wear them. But that's, that's what you got to do. Welcome to My Comic Shop History. I am your host, Anthony Desiato. Con season continues with a look back at last month's C2E2 in Chicago. I am joined by two of my favorite My Comic Shop History guests. To my left, we have C2E2 vendor and Undiscovered Realm owner, Chris Wilcock.
Hey.
And across from me, we have one of the guys who works for ReedPOP, the company that puts on C2E2, New York Comic Con, and a bunch of other shows, ReedPOP content coordinator, Chris Delando.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Is it weird for you guys to be back here recording and not talking about Power Rangers? Because we did a lot of Power Rangers last season.
It's a lot of Power Rangers talk.
Yeah, no. I was looking at the Power Ranger pops as you said that, which was really weird, but so it's still there.
Speaking of pops,
there's new ones.
Chris, I got to thank you for making a special home delivery here.
No problem. We deliver.
You brought me, this is big. I mean, we've talked about it on the show in the past, and I've mentioned my love of this show many times, but you brought me the recently released Smallville pops.
It's true.
This is
hot
big.
Off the truck.
I'm going to do a quick nerd rant. They came out very well. Mostly, I'm just happy that they exist. I'm a little disappointed with the Clark Pops. There are two. What bothers me about them is that they picked one representation of Clark from the pilot of the show and another one from the series finale. So there's the version of him shirtless with the S painted on him when he was hung up as the Scarecrow in the pilot. And then there's the shirt rip from the series finale, the last shot of the show. Those were the two versions of Clark that they went with for these pops. To me, it would have made more sense to go with the blue shirt, red jacket.
Red jacket.
Because that's the way he looked for the other, 218 episodes. I feel like that would have been more representative of the show.
That last one is just a Superman.
That could have been anything.
Any Superman.
Yeah, but that, they want that overlap, I guess, for
That makes
people that
sense.
don't watch the show, they just want a Superman. Like, I got to tell you, Superman doesn't sell that well, but compared to, other superheroes.
It's always been the case.
But, the Clark Kent where he's opening his shirt, everybody wants that one. It's funny. So I guess, they noticed that or something.
All right, I guess they know what they're doing. No Chloe sex cult variant?
Not yet. That's in that's a
soon?
San Diego Comic-Con
It's wave
exclusive.
two,
yeah.
Is that too soon?
Metallic
So
with a branding iron.
we were talking about this before we sat down to record. It kind of ties in with the
Sure,
convention
sure,
scene
sure.
to an extent. For anyone who's not familiar, Allison Mack, actress, she played Chloe Sullivan on Smallville for 10 years. She was recently arrested for her role in, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but a sex cult. And not only was she a member in this, but she apparently rose through the ranks to become the number 2. She was second in command of the sex cult that enslaved these women, turned them into sex slaves, branded them, if anyone's listening to this and you have no idea what I'm talking about, just search Allison Mack. It's shocking. It's horrific. I mean, I know I made the joke about the pop, but it's real. It's just horrendous. I can't, as a Smallville fan, I am beyond disheartened. It's like, it's great that Smallville's in the news again. I wish it were for any other reason than this.
She's not going to be doing any conventions anytime soon.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, so in the season premiere, I had Dave O'Hare, who runs Garden State Comic Fest.
Yeah.
After we recorded, he announced that they booked her for Garden State Comic Fest, and then not long after, they canceled her appearance.
Well, yeah. That's good publicity.
Yeah.
Free publicity.
But when I saw that she was going to be at that show, I was like, well, that'll be interesting. But of course, it didn't come to pass.
That would have been a really interesting panel.
Oh God, I'm laughing at this too much. It's just,
it's not a funny thing, but it's just
not
so
a funny
ridiculous.
thing, but it's so ridiculous. Yeah, and we were talking about this before on mic. Like, you've heard every story imaginable of like Hollywood horror stories, and this is a completely new one. Like I mentioned this before. It's just like, it's so wild. I can't even believe it's real. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that, contrary to what you might think, I don't watch Smallville like all the time. But every now and then, I'll put on a clip or an episode or something. And I've always wanted to do an entire series rewatch.
That's a lot.
And Steph has never really seen it. She's seen like a little bit here and there. So that's always been on the list. And now it's like, I don't know. It'd be kind of hard.
It's going to be a whole new show.
yeah, totally. I mean, unrelated to the sex cult stuff, I just find it much harder to rewatch network shows that have like 24 episodes a season versus like 10.
Yeah, it is
or
very
something.
hard.
It's a lot. It's
Yeah.
a lot of content to burn through.
Well, on a happier note, so we're here to talk about C2E2 as part of our con season theme. So, the goal with each episode is to tackle cons from different perspectives. What's really cool about this episode is we each had a different perspective on C2E2. We each had a different role there.
Yeah,
so,
that's a good point.
Chris, you were a vendor. I hosted a panel. And then Delando, I mean, you were involved in the running of the show.
Sure.
So you were very deep into it.
Oh, yeah.
So when did you start working for ReedPOP?
I started, it'll be a year on June 5th. So not even a year yet. But, I hit the ground running immediately. They hired me specifically to work on C2E2. So just from the jump, I mean, I was explaining this to Chris earlier. ReedPOP recently reorganized, and now every show has its own team. So I'll pitch in on other shows, but C2E2 is mine year round. So I'm responsible for it from word one. And like now that the show is over, we've just started. I'm working on other shows and helping out, but I'm starting on C2E2 2019 already.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I was surprised to learn was how many shows ReedPOP puts on. Because in my head, I'm always like, oh, New York Comic Con, C2E2. But there's a lot beyond that.
Yeah, Emerald City, Star Wars Celebration, all the PAXs, and then a number of shows around the world. We just launched a show in South Africa. We're on every continent at this point except for Antarctica. So
Time to get it done.
I know. I said we should just do one, just for
do
fun.
The 7 scientists there.
Yeah. We'll just get a reunion for the cast of The Thing. It'll be great.
that would be awesome. If you get a good exclusive, people will go.
So
Think about it.
for people who might not be super familiar with this particular convention, like where does it fall in relation to like a New York Comic Con or San Diego in terms of attendance?
In terms of attendance, I mean, excuse me. New York Comic Con is the biggest, and then San Diego, and I mean we're pretty big. We just beat our attendance record for 2018. We did about 82,000 people, but I mean when you stack that up, which is just big, it's big.
That is big, yeah.
When you stack that up against a New York that's like over 200, I think. Don't quote me on that. Like it helps you to put it into perspective. And
yeah,
then,
but at the same time, like for people that aren't familiar with it, like nothing else is anywhere close to New York, San Diego level. So
Sure.
like this is probably like very close to the peak of the anything under those shows. Like in terms of like, a lot of shows. So like it's still a really big show.
also like San Diego it's tough to quantify because I don't think they can get any more. Have you been to San Diego?
Not in a few years, but I've been there. I think they're capped. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you've been because we went together. I don't think they can get any more people in the building, but there's so much stuff happening around the convention center that's
It's really expanded.
related but not part of the convention technically, that they probably touch 300,000 people easily.
Yeah, that's true. So it is hard to get a number on it. But like, do you know like what's the next biggest show in the country? Do you know
Actually, well, Emerald City is bigger than C2E2.
like how much bigger?
I'm not sure, but they're bigger. They're more established than we are.
Yeah. But
This will be 2019 will be C2E2's 10th anniversary. Emerald, I think, is past 15 or 16 at this point. So they've been around a lot longer. And New York, too, is past 15. Cool. So, I mean, we've got room to grow, and we'll keep growing. But we're still very much a new show when you compare it to, like, Wizard Worlds that have been around forever, and, like, some of these, like, Midwest conventions that have just been there forever and been, like, the big convention for those markets.
But for its age, it's, you know, it's a really great and big show.
We've got a lot going for us. I mean, it's a really great venue.
Yeah.
Like, it's the largest. I think it's the largest indoor space in the world. That's what my friend that works at the hotel told me. Yeah,
I want to talk about that because so this was my first C2E2, and I really had a very good time. And you know, I've been telling people it's funny to me because it has the style and substance of a New York Comic Con as you're walking the floor, but you know, you don't have everybody on top of you. It's like you can actually walk and move and breathe. And this place is so massive. Like, they had other conventions going on. There was a Black Women's Expo.
Mm-hmm. You didn't really interact with it at all, right? You didn't see it. Like, it's just
funny. All right, so funny you say that. This is actually kind of funny. So we Ubered when we were in Chicago. So we took an Uber to the convention center. And I don't know exactly where our Uber driver went, but he got us in a different... Like, we went through no security the first day. I don't know where he got us in.
Well, that is not good, and we should talk about that off mic for sure.
It was unusual. It was like some weird entrance, but we eventually were making our way to the main area, and we saw a table that said like speaker check-in, and Steph was like, "Oh, like go there." And it's a good thing I looked because the sign was for the Black Women's Expo. And as we walked away, I was like, "That would have been great if I walked up and I'm like, hey, I'm here to give a talk at your event." What do you have to say to us?
I only had one interaction where this when you guys come in that main entrance, like right where the doors with the big banner, this is the first thing you see, and there's always like a lot of cosplayers and stuff hanging out down there. For those of you who've never been to the convention center, there's a gigantic atrium that you can't miss. It's you know, it leads up these escalators to the show floor, and I'm standing there waiting for someone I don't remember, and I had my my earpiece in that looked very official and Secret Service like, and I've got my windbreaker ReedPOP jacket on, and this little old black woman comes up to me and I'm like, "Do you need help?" And she's like, "Where's the Black Women's Expo?" And like, I was like, "You are in the wrong place. I'm sorry." And I gave her directions, but that was the only interaction I really had with that expo.
And they're probably so confused.
Yeah,
like,
know,
what
right?
in the hell is going on?
Yeah. And then so now for you, Chris, like put this in context for us. So like, how many shows? I know I saw on social media a while back you were keeping a tally, or maybe it was last year's list of all the shows that you did. But for people, and we've talked about this before, but for people who haven't listened, it's like, how many shows are you going to in a year usually?
Last year I think we did like 33, 34.
It's a lot.
That's a lot because
almost every other weekend.
It was really crazy. And the thing you got to remember is like, there's like 3 months out of the year where there's barely any conventions, especially in the Northeast anyway. So like, it would have been more had there been conventions. So yeah, it's crazy when I looked at it like that. But and I'm not just saying this because we're here. C2E2 is my favorite show of the year. For a lot of the reasons you said too, because you get that big vibe. I love the city. I like the convention center. But it's just nice because you get that big show vibe without being crushed, and like it's hectic, but it's not like you're gonna die at the end of the week like you do at New York Comic Con, especially from a vendor perspective. So it's just a really fun show that. I could do it with 4 people and still we do really well, as opposed to 14 people where we're dying, and we're home. So it's good.
Yeah. Is that the farthest west you go?
Yeah. I really want to do Emerald City. It's just such a long drive. It's like 2 days. We've done New Orleans before. That's the furthest we've driven, but and that's just too much. But this is worth it. We come back to Chicago twice a year for Wizard World also, but and that's my second favorite show, oddly enough. So maybe it's Chicago I like, but I really love C2E2.
Yeah. No, Chicago's great. That's the place I've probably been to most now, between work trips and now this. So
it's a good town. I spend a lot of time there now. I get to go a lot. I'm fortunate, which is cool.
Oh, yeah. So how many times do you have to go in advance of the show?
I mean, I only went, I think I went maybe like 2 or 3 times in the last year before actually going for the show. But, we'll try to get that number up. I think at this point we probably don't need to, though. Like, we've established all those relationships and can just move them to email. Right. But it helps to go out once in a while and like maintain a little bit and meet with people and stuff.
So now, what does a content coordinator do exactly?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm involved with every aspect of programming and events for the show. So that's anything from things that are happening on the show floor to panels, I put together all the panel programming, to professional content to late night events to separately ticketed stuff to the cosplay competition to working with the international cosplay teams, because we do a global championship at C2E2. All of our international shows have competitions, and then all those competitors come to C2E2 to compete. So my day varies very differently from day to day, to doing, working with the people who do the live stage on the show floor and, putting together autographing stuff. So it's a lot, and it's never the same day twice. But it's tough to imagine that we used to have one team that would do that for every show, like they would do Star Wars Celebration and they'd go right into C2E2 and then like right into Emerald City, and then before you know it, New York is here, and then you got to start it all over. So just like from a quality of life perspective,
I can imagine,
to make the shows better too, because now we get to spend the full year doing it. We have our hands in everything. So like I did anything from putting a panel together for, like, for example, we identified that our fans really, really love Harry Potter, and we didn't have anything. This is the 20th anniversary of Harry Potter. We didn't have any movie guests, or obviously, the show that gets J.K. Rowling to come to their show is going to be the biggest convention on the planet. But I wanted to do something Harry Potter, and I didn't have any guests, so I went down our list of authors and comic artists and people who were at the show already and had their own followings, and I put together like a Harry Potter panel with people who are fans, like people who are at the show for their pimping their own stuff, but are also like big Harry Potter fans, and like, let's get them together and talk about it. And that ended up being one of the more popular panels of the show, which was really cool. So it's anything from stuff like that to negotiating with publishers to do a signing, to putting together after party stuff, like, or even stuff that's separately ticketed. So we did a late night show this year with Henry Rollins, which was really cool. I wish I'd gotten to see more of it, but we wanted to do something that was maybe a little less comic-y, but maybe had some overlap with the Chicago audience. So we did like a late night comedy thing for the first time. So it varies is the short version.
Yeah, that's a lot. Well, I guess my question would be, because you said, you identified that there was this interest in Harry Potter. It's like, how do you identify something like that?
Well, we do a lot of extensive data, and we have a lot of extensive data from post-show surveys and focus groups. And like for example, one of the things that we did, one of the trips we did out to Chicago was just fan meetups. And, we'll even just plan to just meet at a bar one night and put it on our official channels and have fans come out. And then we just kind of like pick their brains. Like, what do you guys want to see more of? It's not the most hard data, but it helps to just, talk with the fans and hear what they want to see more of. Like Chicago, stuff that works in Chicago doesn't necessarily work in Seattle. It doesn't necessarily work in New York. Like Chicago's a big wrestling town. They're a big, there's a lot of it's like very blue collar town. So like they like their Marvel and their DC when it comes to their comics, versus Seattle might skew a little bit more indie, a little bit more webcomic.
Gotcha.
So it's just kind of identifying what's different about your market and what works. Like horror, for example, works really well in Chicago. So we always try to program like Walking Dead stuff and horror comic books.
Now, wait, on that note, wasn't there another convention the same week?
There was indeed.
Walker
Stalker and Heroes and Villains Fan Fest, which are kind of the same thing, right?
It's the same company, but they run those shows separate. But for that show, for the big cities, they mash them together. You buy one ticket, you get them both, even though it's the same thing, really.
So in a case like that, I mean, who, like, you guys had the dates first, or how did that happen?
I don't know who had the dates first, but the way it works is you're kind of, especially with a big convention center like McCormick, you have the dates that they give you. It might be different for other cities and other shows, but like that's how most shows.
It's like
operate.
that literally everywhere.
Yeah,
like that's why you see like even like your awesome cons like that. 80,000 people or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you're on Easter this year. Okay, like I always looked at it like you figure these places would be happy because so many people are coming to it, but I think it's the complete opposite, because you don't realize all the trade shows that are going on that are not open to the public, and they probably make the same amount of money on rentals, and they don't have to deal with 80,000 people loitering and destroying things and cleaning, and
they probably make the same money on like a 10,000 person trade show that they do on an 80,000 person.
Exactly. So I think they kind of, as crazy as it is, put those shows last on the totem pole for priority. But
well, I would think that they make a lot on, and this is not from personal experience, but I would think they probably make a lot on concessions, or
for
more
sure.
on concessions.
But like it depends. Like some places outsource that. So like you know, like this is a small scale, but say at the county center, like somebody pays them like $100,000 a year and they make all the concession money. But if they don't make anything, the county center still makes that $100,000, you know, so, but if they make $1 million, the county center makes $100,000. So, you know, it might just be more work. I don't know, but it's crazy. I mean, you guys, you didn't notice like any difference from having Walker Stalker. I was surprised the show was packed. So that was great, you know.
Yeah, I was going to ask like how the C2E2 compared to previous years.
From a vendor side, it was identical. You know, we did just as well as we always did, and the show was packed. You know, I had other friends that were either at both shows or at Walker Stalker or at C2E2. Everybody did great, and I don't know how that city supports such a big show because what was Indiana was the week before too. And or is that Indianapolis? Yeah, one of the other was the week before on Easter, and it was also like insanely busy. And every vendor I know that was there did double what they were expecting. And then you have these 2 mega shows the week after that, and you have Wizard World in August. I don't understand how they support all these shows, but they're always great.
So Chicago's a really big media market. I mean, I think it's the second or third, maybe second largest in the country. There's a lot of people there, so I guess it shows. Centrally
located too, so you're drawing. It's close enough to both coasts where people can drive it. You know, like I said, I'm not going to drive to Emerald City necessarily, but I can drive to Chicago. But somebody in Seattle can also drive to Chicago just as quick. So maybe it's just perfect, you know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Chicago, I know you guys were extremely busy with the show itself, but did you have a chance to check out restaurants, things like that while you were there?
I literally just ate hot dogs like every night. I had pizza twice.
From the hotel bar?
No, and
they were good.
I was going to say the hotel and the convention center have really good hot dogs, but what was that? What's the name of the place? The famous place?
Vienna Beef?
No, it starts with a P.
Portillo's?
Yeah. That was like maybe 5 or 6 minutes down the road, like one of the really big ones. And I went there every night, like 4 nights in a row. I just ate nothing but hot dogs. I love them so much.
Did you have the free Cards Against Humanity hot dogs?
No, I didn't even know that was a thing going on because I didn't get to walk around that
I would have
much.
told you.
Oh, man.
We helped set that up, too.
Yeah, that was awesome.
My job, too.
I saw my friend take a picture inside the hot dog, and I was like, where the hell was that?
That was cool. We got hot dogs, and I got to say, they kept that line moving fast. We weren't waiting long.
That's that ReedPOP line management for you.
Where was that on the show?
It was like right
we
at
put
the
them
front.
Like right up front. Yeah,
it was like you walk in and it's like hot dogs right in your face.
I don't know how I walked over there 50 times because I was that area I did go to. I don't know how I missed that. That's crazy. I'm really upset.
So I was not as involved with the show, so I had a little more opportunity to explore. Although the other reason why I was in Chicago was to start production on my comic shop Country. So I did filming at a couple of shops out there, Challengers and First Aid Comics. So it was a busy weekend, but we did do deep dish pizza. We did Uno's, the original they claimed.
Yeah. That one's. Did you stay right in that area? Yeah. That's the Acme Hotel, which is my favorite hotel in Chicago, is literally connected to that Uno's.
Oh, nice.
And it's good, but I like Giordano's better.
So we did that. We did that last time, and I think we liked Uno's better because it wasn't as deep. Like it wasn't as thick. I don't know. So we liked that. Was good.
I learned something about Chicago deep dish pizza this trip that I did not know before. That there's a lot of places have a vegan version of this.
It's made with sausage.
Yeah, where the actual crust is just a sausage patty.
Oh.
Which is ridiculous when you think about it.
Yeah, my friend, he was on some diet where he couldn't eat bread, so he was like, we have to order from... one of the places specifically made that one, and he's like, we have to order from there. I'm like, all right.
Wow.
It's weird. There's a lot of intricacies to Chicago pizza.
They all kind of bleed together for me. I don't even... I'm just like, okay, well...
They're all good,
deep dish pizza.
but they take forever to cook. Like, that's the other thing. You go to Giordano's, there's like an hour or something like that.
Yeah, it's like... And I don't know. I've given this a lot of thought. It's like, I appreciate that they're making it fresh, but it feels it's too long to wait. I don't know. This time we called it in and then we went to pick it up. So that's the way to do it.
And when we went to Giordano's, they let you order because there was like a 40-minute wait to sit down. So they take your order and then when you sit down, the pizza's just ready, which is great too.
Yeah. And then Sunday, my birthday, we did Gibson's Steakhouse. Okay. That was serious. That was really good.
I've heard that's really good. I've
never been there either.
Yeah, that was really good. The dessert, we ordered, I put this in quotes, a piece of chocolate cake. They give you literally a quarter of the cake. It was as big as my head. It was crazy. We would have been dead if we ate that.
Yeah, they got good food there, man.
Next time you're there, Midwesterners really know how to eat like big time.
Yeah, and I'm not a food guy, and I'm like, I'm in heaven, so I can't even imagine.
Next time you're there, go to Riccabini's and get the breaded steak sandwich.
Okay.
That's out of control.
Sounds good.
Yeah, there's been some good food. And then so the documentary production continued. I just got back from North Carolina, so there's some great barbecue down there. Did some chicken and waffles. Like it was...
Yeah, Carolina definitely has some good food.
It was good.
We have to go to Raleigh in a month or so, so I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah. All right. So C2E2. So, I mean, like for you, Delando, like what, yeah, I know so much went into the preparation, the lead up to this, but what were those few days like for you? Like, what was your state of mind and stress level?
I flew in on Tuesday morning. So I was there from Tuesday until Monday. Well, actually Tuesday because I stayed an extra day. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was a lot of setup. Friday, you know, the way everyone positions it is like, you know, you prep all year for this, and then by the time the show gets going, it, you know, it just goes. You're done. It's just kind of like, yeah. I mean, it really is though. Friday, I'll admit, was like really hectic. So one thing I have not mentioned is, I'm very, very proud of our C2E2 team because they're all new. Like every show team has, you know, the same kind of components. They have a content person, which is me. They have a sales guy. They have marketing people. They have an event manager. It's usually like 5 or 6 people per team. The C2E2 team, this was every one of our members' first show. So I'm very, very proud that with all the competition we had from Walker Stalker, we still managed to exceed our goals from the previous year. And by all accounts, everyone seems to think it went exceedingly well. That said, you don't know what you don't know. And we had never done this before, so there was a lot. I mean, I can't speak for them, but me personally, on the setup day that I just didn't know had to be done. If I had known, I would have prepared a contingency plan for it. And then even then, some shit just happens. You know, you can't account for stuff.
Like what kind of stuff? Like someone not being where they need to be, or not having what they need, or something like that?
One thing that I personally didn't account for is like, you ship stuff to the convention center, but you then have to tell them like where in the convention center to put it. So a lot of my day on Wednesday and Thursday was like, it would have been solved if I had just written the right thing on the label, but because I didn't, I had to run all over the gigantic convention center hauling boxes to places that they needed to be, when it could have just been solved easily, and that ate up a lot of time. Or like, for example, I had a guest come who shipped stuff. I don't even know if they shipped it wrong or whatever. The building only accepts packages for a very specific amount of time, and if it comes before that or after that, they won't accept it. But I don't know if that was the case here, but his banners for his table just never showed up, and we couldn't find them. We were scouring the building for 2 days. He went Friday without having his banners. We had to go. We searched every nook and cranny of the building. We had the union looking for them. Nowhere. Called the post office. They didn't know where it was. We finally figured out that it was probably at a local post office nearby. So Saturday morning, I had to send one of my guys to a post office to get these like 50-pound boxes and bring them back to the convention center. So like just shit like that you don't account for. Or like we had we had a lending library come, and they brought like 5,000 books, and we put them in a panel room, and then fans could go into that room if they needed a break and just sit down and read a book. I personally don't know why you'd ever want to do that at a show. I just think like you paid all this money to go here. Why you want to sit in a room and read a book? But like anime fans and manga fans seem to really dig that for some reason. So,
okay.
So I found a vendor who would do this, and I gave them the space, and they did it. But it's one thing when you look at floor plan for the place. It's another thing when you're there and it's much, much larger and much different. I put them way further away from normal foot traffic than I should have, like in a non-really accessible place. So like they did not do very well on their first day traffic wise. So the next day, like I had to walk around with them and like place signs places like, we've got this lending library, it's over here, come find us, come hang out with us, kind of a stuff. And then their traffic picked up. So it's really just kind of, you know, growing pains on things. You don't know until you're there. But once it got started, I was spending most of my time just kind of running back and forth on that hallway that you saw me at, just checking in on my crew, making sure that, you know, rooms weren't filling up too quickly, or if they were filling up, radioing to our marketing team to let people on social media know, like, hey, this panel is filled up, or, you know, there's some spots left here, or, you know, if something is, knock on wood, doing really poorly, that we wanted to fill out, having them send out a tweet like, you know, you want to see this panel, it's starting right now, that kind of stuff. Making sure that lines are moving properly and all that. So
yeah, that was a big problem with my panel. Actually, there were just no seats left. People were just pouring into it. No, but we did have a good turnout. I mean,
Did you?
I've been telling people, like, for a Sunday afternoon with, like, no celebrity guests or, like, big name creators or anything, like, we had at least 30, I think.
That's great.
And people seemed into it, so that was good.
Oh, that's
I mean, I
awesome.
was happy.
Yeah.
I'd rather have 30 people that are really
Into
into
it.
it than have a packed room of people who are just sitting there to wait for like the next panel. or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it seemed like people specifically came for that, which was really nice. No, and I want to thank you officially. Like, I really appreciated the opportunity to do that. I've not asked you, and maybe I don't want to know the answer to this.
Was it nepotism? Is that what you're going to ask?
Basically,
No,
No.
not at all. No. I full disclosure, like when someone submits a panel to us, it goes through extensive review, and we all kind of review it as a team. The core C2E2 team will look over it, but also like the other content people from the other shows will weigh in. And we all thought that you had a great submission and that it was worthwhile doing. And I even we had another panel that was retailer focused on a different day. And I even went and I talked to my boss. I was like, what do you think about, like, do you think we're running too many retailer panels? Like, full disclosure, like, this one is one of my close friends. Like, I want to give him this shot. Like, I think he'll do a great job. And honestly, he was like, if we have room for both, do them. But if you figure it out. So I figured it out.
Well, no, and I appreciated your guidance. I know when the submission thing went up, I reached out to you and I said, do I need to have my panelists set yet? And you said that it would help. And of course, that made sense. So at that point, so this was like months and months ago when the submission thing opened, I reached out to Pat Brower at Challengers, who I had met podcasting with last fall.
great.
Ben from Zap, who of course has been a guest on the show, and he's a regular vendor at C2E2, and Christy Blanche from Aw Yeah Muncie, and of course, we're part of the Aw Yeah family. They've been on the show and everything. So that was my initial lineup. The final lineup was completely different.
And that's okay.
But what I didn't tell you was how much, I don't want to say trouble, but it was a little challenging finding replacements. Because once I got the time slot, a couple people couldn't do it at that time. And then Christy ended up not being able to make it to the show at all. So, I was looking to find replacements. And you were helpful. You gave me some leads. And I went through the list of, vendors and all that. There were a couple people who were a little shy and they didn't want to be on stage. There was one vendor that just said, I'll pass, but thanks. So it goes. But I was really happy with the lineup we ended up with. So it was James, and I don't want to say ended up with, I was very happy to have all three of them. It was James Nurse from First Aid Comics, and he's been on the show before. Mark Beatty from Dark Tower Comics. He had a cool perspective because he was more of the the old school comic shop owner. So it was a nice contrast.
That's cool.
And then Matt from Age of Comics in New Mexico. Which was cool to have representation from a different part of the country.
Totally.
And they're really big into the vintage books. Like, I went to his booth on the floor, and he had a Detective 27.
Oh, wow.
So, stuff like that was cool to see. And
That's
we had a fun
totally
conversation.
different market, so that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally different buyer, collector, like...
I got to say, I don't collect a ton of comics. And one thing I find interesting with these shows is, I was looking for, a random issue of Spider-Gwen that came out, 6 months ago. And I've been looking for it all year. And, none of these guys, because they don't have stores, a lot of them, so they don't have current books. It's really weird. You have the guys that have the current books and nothing else. The guys that just have random back issues from the 80s, 70s to 90s. And then the guys that have the vintage books. And it's... Even though you see their comic vendors, it's three completely different worlds, three different client bases, and it's really interesting.
Never the three shall meet.
Yeah, so weird.
It's tougher now with the way books are printed and quantities and stuff that, once it's gone, it's usually tougher to find.
Yeah. It's just, and it's not even expensive. It's the thrill of the hunt. You don't want to buy it on eBay, and I'm I just want to find it in a box. But it's just crazy to me, how few people have current books at these shows.
Yeah, it is. I know, it really is something. But just going back to the panels for a second, Chris, you and I were going to be on a panel together at a New Jersey show at the end of April, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, I still don't know what happened, but you can tell me later.
Yeah, I'll tell you the full story later. All I'll say is this, and I debated how much to get into this, but the panel I was going to do was canceled by the organizers, not my choice. And I debated how much I wanted to say about this. All I'll say is, I reach out to a lot of people. Stores and convention organizers and creators, and one thing that is always important to me is that I always strive to be professional, respectful, polite. I feel like that's important, and
one might say it's the most important.
I mean it's something that I do pride myself on. I think it is. I agree, the most important thing, and I really, for the most part, that's been returned from the people I've been dealing with, but it doesn't always happen. And, and when that happens, it is what it is. So for anyone who was looking forward to that panel at that show, we'll catch you at the next one. Not that show, but a different one.
I appreciate your professionalism in not even naming it. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. But it's interesting for me. It's another layer to this convention world. And, dealing with organizers and dealing with promoters. I mean, I want to turn to you now.
I'm just
Chris.
biting my tongue so hard it's going to bleed. So I'm not going to say anything. Shoot myself in the foot.
But no, we don't have to talk about that one specifically. But you deal with a lot of promoters.
Yeah.
I mean, you are a promoter as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about your show, Undiscovered Realm, in the past, Undiscovered Realm Comic-Con. And I know, unfortunately, it's not happening this year.
Yeah. And it's so annoying because, everybody the last, month is just like, oh, when's the show? Oh, we want to do a show. It's like that third year where everybody just is coming to you. So it's not that it's not work, but it's just you're not trying to convince people to do the show anymore. And so, it's cool to see. We just did Hudson Valley this past weekend in Poughkeepsie, so it was a lot of overlap, obviously. And everybody's come to the booth. They're like, "Oh, we're so sad. We really wanted to go to the show. That's one of our favorite local shows," which is really nice to hear because we're a small fish in a really big pond, and so it's cool to hear that stuff. But yeah, we know most of the promoters now, and and it lets us look at shows from a different perspective because I'm like, I even see promoters and I'm like, why don't you do this? And fix, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, and it's weird, but most of them know each other and they talk. But there are some promoters that I just can't stand, and unfortunately, this month, 2 of those shows were in the same month, so I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. What is the difference in dealing with a show that's run by one guy versus a ReedPOP or another company?
I guess there's pluses and minuses on both sides, from my perspective anyway. Like Chris said, if you have 5 or 10 people running a show and everybody has their job, usually you would hope that things would run more efficiently than one guy that's just doing it. And a lot of times people think they can do a show and even think sometimes they're doing a good job, but they're forgetting so many obvious things, especially from a vendor perspective. And I said this a million times, but I think that's one of our strong points is that I know what the other vendors are going to be thinking when I make decisions, so I can alleviate a lot of potential problems. And but sometimes when you do have that many people, a lot of the smaller details do get left off, even though somebody's job is just that specific thing, because it's such a big show that they don't have that attention to minute details that maybe the one guy would have because he has his hand in every part of the show. So if I ask Chris maybe about something that the marketing person's doing, he's not going to have any idea, and that's not his fault because it's not his job. But if, when I run the show, every inch of that show I've done, every inch of the building I've planned out. So I should know everything and be able to respond to things instantly. So there's pluses and minuses, I guess.
Yeah. No, that actually makes a lot of sense. That's very insightful. But why is it that Undiscovered Con isn't happening this year?
Well, we going back to the date thing, we had our dates set, really in advance. We had them but for last year's show, we already knew what our dates were going to be.
It was going to be Father's
year.
Day weekend, right?
Yeah. And we had a couple options, actually. It was Mother's Day or Father's Day, which, again, neither are ideal, but we were like, you know what? Mother's Day is a liability. Father's Day might actually be a benefit because the kids can take their dad out. It's something they both want to do together, And, at the end of the day, we just had no choice. June seemed like it was wide open compared to, a lot of the other local shows. And so we set it. And then probably 5 months in, 6 months in, EternalCon moved from 4th of July back to Father's Day. And also BurrowCon, which is a train wreck of a show. I'll leave it at that. I don't know if anybody was there last year, but I'm shocked that they're back. But so that was irrelevant to us. But then EternalCon, it's a really good show. It's in Long Island. It's close. And, we like doing that show also. And it would have been a disaster. We would have both been pulling the same crowd. It wasn't good for anybody. And so we were like, you know what? Maybe this is just a sign. There's too many shows. Let's just skip a year. We can concentrate on everything. We'll grow, do it next year. It sucks losing that momentum, like I was saying before, but I think it was just better for everybody. It's no sense in us harming each other. And it ended up being a blessing in disguise because I also own a tattoo shop, which I don't know if we ever went into, but we're expanding and we've been working on this. It should have been done 4 months ago and we're still doing it. And so if those two things happened at the same time, I probably would have jumped off a building by now. So it ended up being a really big blessing, but we will be back next year, but we're still working on dates because it's just so hard. And everybody's like, oh, the county center only has something once a month. And it's you don't realize like the camp that's there for 3 days a week, and all these things are just aren't open to the public. So getting dates are really, really, really hard. Yeah. And we're one of the bigger shows there, and we just can't, we have no priority. It's like, do you want this or nothing?
Yeah, at the Westchester County Center. Yeah, I mean, I don't envy you being in that position because, right, it's like either you go ahead and you risk having a dud of a show because you're competing with this other one, or you don't do it and then you risk them losing the momentum.
Yeah.
But I think the next year's show is going to be awesome. And
I hope so.
It'll be the return. See, that's a nice thing. Like you skip a year and then it's like you're coming back. Like it'll be an event.
Yeah, no, that's true, and that's a good way to market. And just seeing all these people that didn't, because some of the other vendors are like, oh, you got to do it every year, even if you go back downstairs. And I didn't want to take a step backwards, but they're like, people forget. So it was nice having all these people come up to us and be like, oh, we're definitely going to be there. Oh, we're waiting for it. Oh, it's one of it was really, really nice to hear.
Well, when the time comes for whatever little bit it'll help, we'll give it a nice big push.
Well, we appreciate it.
No, of course.
You'll be back.
And I appreciate that. Look, we're all so appreciative here. On that note, this is the point in the show where I would play the Undiscovered Realm commercial. I want to thank you for being one of our podcast sponsors.
No problem. Happy to help.
There was a little bit of a glitch in the season premiere.
We were laughing. We were driving to... When was the premiere? It was on the way to Chicago?
Yeah,
was it that week?
It was April 4th.
Yeah, so we were driving to Chicago, and we listened to the episode in the car, and started playing, and we all started cracking up, and I was like, I should tell him about this. But it was like 4 a.m, first of all. I'm like, I don't want to bother him. And I'm like, you know what? I'll take the second ed.
The UR commercial played for a second time, and the second time it played, it was over the episode.
Oh, really?
So that's the kind of thing that every time I publish one of these episodes, I'm worried about that. I'm going to do something like that. There's going to be something in there. And I feel I made it through 3 seasons.
Yeah.
4, really, because we got to include Flat Squirrel Tales. So 4 seasons, not so bad.
Things happen.
But it was disappointing. But I got a heads up. I want to thank our friend in North Carolina, Lord Retail. He texted me. I had just gotten into work, and his text came through, and he's like, just so you know. And like my heart just sank. I was like, "Oh no!" I raced home. This is the benefit of living across the street from where I work. I zoomed home and I fixed it and I reposted it. It's like anyone who downloaded it after that morning should be fine. That's the thing. If you have that original error variant of the season 4 premiere,
spoken like a true comic fan,
you better hang on to that.
But you know what? It's good to know that people are listening. That you got feedback right away,
and there were a number of people.
Wouldn't it have been worse if you found out like 2 years later that no one heard this error in your podcast?
That's true. So that was nice. And then I got to say, not to toot my own horn, but I was proud of myself. I wasn't as upset about it as I thought I would be if that something like that ever happened. Like I was more okay with it than I thought.
I can't imagine someone's out there. I'm never listening to this show again. This guy clicked the wrong button.
But, in any event, so this is the point where I would normally run the commercial, but you're here. Let's just do the commercial.
Oh, no. We'll do it live.
Yeah. Well, what should people know about Undiscovered Realm?
I don't know. We've gone through this extensively. I don't know. We're definitely the biggest pop dealer around. Especially, I don't know that this is a fact, but I want to say maybe on the East Coast at this point, like we have everything. We do a ton of conventions. We bring the same stock to the show that we have in the store. So we mirror the two. We really specialize in like hard to find stuff, high end stuff, exclusives. Basically that's it. We try to keep our prices fair. We run a ton of in-store tournaments, video games, cards, games. We do some comics. We're not really a hardcore comic store. Just a mismatch of everything basically. But it's nice to have something in this area. There's not a lot of stores, and they're more closing actually. So it's good to still be open. Like Modern Myths is closing next month. Yep. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
Toys R Us is closing.
Yeah.
Where do you go to buy toys?
It's
now?
hard.
It's hard. Target. And hey, I was as a customer testimonial, I was at that store today, and it was great.
At Undiscovered Realm?
The staff is friendly and courteous.
We try.
Yeah. Hey, look, for whatever it's worth to listeners, it's where I get my pops.
Yeah. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Well, it's
every customer counts really. It's a mom and pop store in the truest sense of the word or phrase.
So as far as comic shops, Spider's Web and Aw Yeah are the other 2 stores I probably go to most. And Mark at Aw Yeah, he said to me on a couple of occasions, he's like, we can get you pops. And I'm like, I appreciate that. I said, but I get them from Undiscovered Realm.
We can get you comics.
I get my. Well, that's
I mean, it's fair.
I try to spread it around. So I get my comics at one place, trade to another place, pop somewhere else. So, but I thank you for being a sponsor. If anyone else is out there listening and they want to get in on this sponsorship action, reach out.
Yeah,
There's
it's
still
worth
some
it.
spots available. So, but anyway, so going back to C2E2, I mean, what were other highlights of the show for you guys?
Go first.
I don't know. I really, it's a blur. As much
lowlights,
as
I
it's a
guess.
blur for him, it's a blur for us too, because you get in there 8 a.m. to restock. You're working till 7 or whenever the show ends. Then you got to check what you need, do a thing, count out, and then you leave. Maybe you get a bite to eat really fast, and you got to go back to the trailer and the van to restock again, get everything. Before you know it, it's 10 o'clock at night, and you're so tired, you're just passing out. So we don't really get to experience any of the after show stuff or after parties or events or anything like that. So it's a little bit of a different perspective for us. Like, we were there for a week and it felt like a day. It's just over so fast. And I would run into him, and we were staying in the same hotel that was connected to the convention center. So, I'd see him a couple of times after the show. The first night I was really genuinely worried he was going to kill himself. I'm not even joking.
Was I that bad?
Oh yeah. Everyone was like,
Shit.
yeah, he looked.
I mean, like I said, that
out
first
of
day
sorts.
was rough.
I was genuinely concerned. I'm not even trying to be funny. I was like, oh man, he's not taking this well. But then as the weekend went on, you could see the life come back a little bit. And then on Sunday night, he was, wandering around the hotel in good spirits. So I'll leave it at that.
He wasn't too far gone. He wasn't signing up for the sex cult or anything like that.
You know what? I wouldn't have been surprised on Friday.
I was in my cups on Sunday night. I got a little. Was I that bad?
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna go outside. And he walks outside, and it just immediately turns around and comes back in. And we were having this whole speech, like it was really, really foggy and freezing and snowing that night. And his buddy that he works with was like, "Oh, that's it." And I was like, "Yeah, we're never going to see him again. He's just going to wander off into the snow."
Is this Gabe by any chance?
No, it wasn't
Or
That was
Gabe.
Mike. Yeah, but Gabe was there.
And we
I
went
think,
into
right?
this whole spiel about how they were going to dedicate the next year's show as a memorial to him, because there's no way he's going to find his way back inside. And we went through this whole thing, and then he just like stopped and turned around and walked back in, and he was like, "Oh, you ruined it."
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
at
no,
all.
I'm not surprised.
I know. I was going to ask what went through your mind in those moments when you were outside.
My mind on Sunday night was just like, you did it.
It's over.
Celebrate. And I might have celebrated a little too hard. I remember knocking over a bottle of wine accidentally. I bumped into a table, and there was a full bottle of wine on it. It just crashed on the floor. That was the one thing that I was very embarrassed about. I never really get too embarrassed about being drunk, but when I just am causing a ruckus and breaking shit.
Well, he wasn't like fall over, throw up all over the place.
Oh,
he
yeah,
was
no,
just
I
in a
was fine.
funny mood,
Yeah, that was the most drunky thing that I did that night. I hope. We'll see if anything else comes out of the
One of the
woodwork,
guys
but
that works with me is like, he's not going to have a good morning.
I was okay. Oh no, actually that's not true. No, I was really hungover. I went to my sister works at the Shed Aquarium right up the road, which is like
that's my favorite place. Every time I go to Chicago, I go there.
dude, that aquarium is so sick.
It's
I'd
the
never
best.
been before, but Mike
really?
and I actually went the next day. So I stayed in Chicago a day to hang out with my sister, and she was like, come up to the aquarium and hang out with me. And Mike came with me too. He was like, you mind if I tag along? And we had a really good time, but I was hurting.
It's all
I was
walking.
really hurting.
Yeah. Every time someone asks me what to do in Chicago, I'm just like, go to the aquarium.
Yeah, the aquarium's really
It's
cool.
so awesome.
It's the best aquarium I've been to, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, definitely in the country. London is really awesome too.
Oh, really?
But I haven't been there in a long time to compare the two. But I go every time I go to Chicago, so that's great. I didn't know she worked there. That's cool.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you earned it. I mean, when I saw you, maybe a little frazzled, but appropriately so. I mean, I can only imagine what I would look like if I were running around doing that.
I really hit my stride on Saturday. Like I said, Friday was really rough because it's just like I had two phones and they were both ringing off the hook, and I would answer one and then be like, okay, I'll talk, and answer the other one, and then I'm running around all over the place, and it feels like everything's going to shit, and then you get a handle on it by the end of the day, and then I like you said, I looked bad on Friday. I felt bad on Friday.
Yeah,
I had a bad night. I barely slept from anxiety. I was like, I can't believe I got to do this for 2 more days.
That's the worst feeling. And I can tell you, I know it personally from running the show too. That is the scary. I never have anxiety. I never sleep badly. But the night before, I'm just like, oh my God, what if nobody shows up? And what if we lose them, $100,000? It's scary stuff. And then amplify it times 1,000,000%. And that's what you're dealing with. So, yeah. God, I can only imagine.
No, this is a fascinating world to me. Again, I've had the comic shop experience, but this is different. And, I guess the season was kind of born in part out of past episodes that I did with each of you. Like Chris, when we did that Christmas special like a couple years ago now, and we talked about the running of Undiscovered Con. Like that was the first time I started getting insight into what goes into the running of a show. And then Delando, when you, me, and Dan from 13th Dimension, we did our convention episode last season. Like those things kind of got the wheels turning of like it'd be interesting to learn more about this world, and it's been fascinating for me. To know what goes into this.
Yeah, I mean, and as a listener, I really like listening to other promoters and seeing their perspective on things and what their pitfalls are, because, some of these guys just are loaded and so they can do things that other ones can't. And then some of them are, scraping things together. And, so it's really cool to see the different person. And then, like Chris, he works for a huge company, like the biggest one that does these shows, but it's still the same level of, intensity and work, so it's, everyone probably thinks like, oh, ReedPOP, they got so much money that they could just do whatever they need. They got a million people doing everything. But no, there's still a hardworking team behind it. So it's cool to pull that curtain back, even for somebody like me who sees a lot more of it than their average person. I'm still very intrigued.
I was curious in that season premiere, the glitch episode. Was there anything that you heard in that you wanted to respond to?
No, I don't remember any. Keep in mind, I was on like hour 16 of a drive at this point. I wasn't driving at that point, but so it's kind of a blur to me. But no, we've done those shows before, so I'm familiar with those guys. Nice guys. And when he was talking about the thing that got stolen, that was us. When he was like, we cashed them immediately, and I have to give them credit where credit's due. It was like a $40 figure, but they found that guy within like 10 minutes. They were in there. They watched the cameras, and we've been at other shows where we've had like $2,000 worth of stuff disappear overnight, which was the security, you know what I mean? And I have to give them credit. They were on top of that. They paraded that guy through. Everything they said was word for word true.
All right, right on.
So that was funny to hear. But yeah, no, it was good. It was, and that's nice because that's on, a similar size show to us. And it's, I like to hear that because it lets me feel like I'm not alone in the world,
Yeah, no, for sure. And then as far as, what about like any celebrity? Well, because like you always run into Kato, right? Kato Kaelin?
Kato at Wizard Worlds, yeah. Only Wizard World.
But any interesting folks stop by the Undiscovered Realm booth?
At C2E2, not at this show. Not that I noticed anyway. Sometimes, this one's just so busy that you might not even see it. You look up, John Barrowman, whenever he's at a show, he always walks by, and he always walks the floor, which is intriguing to me because he gets these huge lines, but nobody notices him when he's walking around.
That's fascinating.
And he's one of the nicest guys ever.
Because you probably just don't expect it, and you're not looking at other people's faces.
Yeah,
your eyes are always darting all over the place.
And if you see, you're probably like, oh, that's not him.
Last year, I was getting a hot dog at the stand in the convention center, and Mick Foley wasn't paying attention and barreled me over, and I look up and I'm like, oh shit, it's Mick Foley. So it's weird. You never know, But yeah, no good celebrity stories this year. But again, we were pretty overwhelmed because we didn't have a huge crew with us.
Yeah. I got recognized by my comic shop history listener.
Did you really?
That's the best thing you could ever ask for.
That's the coolest thing on the planet.
Well, here's the funny thing. So it was within the first 5 minutes of walking in, and I had my Flat Squirrel Productions hat on. But kind of out of the corner of my eye, I caught someone, and it seemed like he was looking at me, and I turned around, but he didn't say anything. And then a moment later, he was like, hey, are you Anthony Desiato? He's like, I listened to the show.
That's
and it was
awesome,
great.
man.
So shout out to Mike from Buffalo. That was awesome. But here's the thing. Just from an ego perspective, it was extremely flattering, but it happened so early in the show. I was like, oh, this is going to keep happening.
I was going to ask you that.
No, that was the only time.
Yeah, hey man, that's awesome. Especially
that's so cool.
That was cool.
That makes
was
me
very
so
cool.
happy. That's what I want out of the show.
See, that's the thing I like too. And you call me cheesy, it's the same thing with the store. When everyone's like, why'd you open a store? I'm like, it's nice to see these people form these relationships or run into people they like or have, so that is really cool.
No, that was awesome. Chris, you were my first stop. Once we
thanks.
went to your booth and then hit some of the other retailers I know, and then other retailers who I've wanted to meet in person. That's who I try to meet at these shows, the retailers.
No, I mean, yeah,
But
that's cool. They probably don't have a lot of people who come looking for them specifically.
Yeah, I guess.
I always like to go say hi to retailers that I know. I think that they like it, and it's a tight knit community.
No, that's a nice.
No, it
thing.
really is. And what was really funny for us was we were in DC the week before, and literally our row was like exactly the same as DC. Like all the vendors that were next to it.
Really?
It was like somebody just picked up the aisle and just dropped it in Chicago.
weird.
Yeah, and especially in a size show like that, it was just so weird.
funny.
And we're just like, oh, hey guys, you see these people every week. Some of these guys I've seen 7 weeks in a row now. I haven't even seen my wife. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it must be a lot of camaraderie. With the fellow road warriors. Like, I want to have you back later in the season to talk more about like the travel specifically and about URCon and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
no problem. But yeah, no, it definitely is, and that's one of the things that even though this is a really draining industry and it gets monotonous and it's a lot of work, but if you think about not doing it, you're like, I miss because you wouldn't see these people anymore, and it is in a weird way like a little family, so it is nice, so it's cool.
The way you do it now, where you're the one on the road, you're the one at these shows. If you could just like send a team there, would that be more appealing to you, or would you still want to do it?
It wouldn't be because it would be just from a standpoint of getting other work done back home. It's not like I'd be sitting home on the couch type of thing. It would be nice to not have to be juggling 10 things while I'm on the road. But aside from the driving and the setup and the breakdown, once we're there, I really do enjoy it, and I like seeing everybody. I like talking to the customers, so I don't know that I'd want to do that.
So I know I'd asked you about, celebrity, any interactions. What about you, Delando? I mean, because
celebrity interactions?
Yeah.
I saw a couple people backstage and stuff.
Yeah, I was curious if you have access, you'd have the access.
Yeah, I got to, so I really wanted to do a big photo op that we did. I'm a huge Gilmore Girls fan, like a huge Gilmore Girls fan. And I'll get into why in a little bit. And I wanted to do a photo op really bad with Milo Ventimiglia, who played Jess on the show. And he was there because he's like on This Is Us now, which is huge. And there was a dual photo op with him and with Sean Gunn, who played Kirk on the show, who's also in Guardians of the Galaxy now. And they do shows and stuff. So we paired them up for like a Gilmore Girls dual photo op. They were like two of my favorite characters. And I was like, I really want to do this. But I just didn't have time to actually like peel myself away and go do it. But I happened to be back in the celebrity green room backstage, and I ran into Sean Gunn and I just told him like, hey, I'm like a big fan. And I told him a story. I was like, do you have a quick second? I just want to tell you a little quick anecdote. I started watching Gilmore Girls when I was in high school because I wanted to, a girl that I really liked told me like, you'd really like this show. They make a lot of pop culture references. It's really funny. And I was like, this show's probably so stupid. Like, this is dumb. But you know what? Like, I'm a kid in high school and I really just want to talk to this girl. Yeah. So I went home and I was like, all right, fine, I'll try it out. I watched the show, loved it immediately. And that was Sam. And we've been together for like 10 years now. And so I just told him that story, and I was like, we bonded over this show, and like we're still together, and we still love it, and it's like one of our things. And he just thought it was really cool, and in a weird way, that was almost cooler than
the photo op.
Yeah.
That I would have this. Really
you
awkward,
wouldn't get that experience
because you're in and you're
you'd
out
be in
those,
2 seconds. He's a really nice guy.
That's awesome.
Too. So that was cool. I mean, I saw people walking to and fro because I had to keep going back behind autographing every once in a while, and but I didn't really get to spend any like meaningful time with anybody of the celebrity variety. I know a lot of comic creators and stuff, so I got to see them and spend time with them, which was really cool. Like I got to spend a lot of time with Mark Millar while I was there because we worked together a lot when I was at Marvel, but I had never met him in person. And Brian Bendis is a good friend, and I love Brian. And so it was really good to see him and spend some time with him. But
this guy dropping these names.
Well, one of the coolest things about the show is the big thing that I put together at the show, like my favorite thing was I put together a one-on-one panel with Brian and Mark, and they haven't been on a stage together in like over a decade. And I was like, we're going to have them both at the show. These guys are both so instrumental to like comics in the early 2000s. They both jump-started the Ultimate Universe together. Like, let's just get them on stage and just these two guys. If you know them or if you've heard them talk, you know that they can just go. You just give them a microphone, they'll go. I was like, if we get these two on the stage, it's going to be magic. And I coordinated and I got them to do it. And Brian actually like shouted me on the stage. He's like, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Chris Delando. And like, that's
awesome.
That's
so
really
freaking cool. Like, and he didn't need to do that. He was just being nice. But yeah, I love Brian. He's such a great dude. So like comic creator interactions, I had a ton of, but, and then obviously at the hotel bar, because it's connected to the what's called BarCon at C2E2 is better than any show I've ever been to because the bar is right next to the convention center. Like and everyone's staying at that hotel. It's so cool. So you're just like mingling with comic people at the bar all night.
Do you find it odd that more fans don't show up at the bar? Because I feel
Yeah,
like, right?
I really do, actually.
Because I thought about this, especially with San Diego. So you and I went together a few years back, and then I went again a couple years ago, and of course you were there with Marvel, and I did go to one of the bars one of the nights there, and you were there, and a bunch of creators, and it was really cool, and you get them in a different environment, like it's really interesting. But yeah, isn't it surprising? Like, don't you think more people would show up there? What do you think
San Diego
it is?
one's even crazier because the celebrities are just like walking down the
Yeah.
street, and there's so many of them. It's nuts.
It's like I mean, I guess it's a good thing. You wouldn't want
You wouldn't want to be accosted or
Right.
anything. Yeah.
but I don't know. I would just think you would find more of that.
I think a lot of the people that go to these shows though do have like a lot of social awkwardness and
That's
like
true.
you know, it's not really their thing, you know. So it is hard, you know. You think in your head like, oh, I'm going to say all these things to this person, but then when they're just standing there, you're like, I'll leave them alone. And you know, so it's hard.
But like I saw a video from the Hyatt bar, like attached to the convention center, in like bar drinking time, where like 30 people just did a flash mob in the bar and just broke out into a synchronized dance.
Yeah, there's some crazy.
It's
I mean,
nuts,
that
like-
that lobby was nuts until like 4 in the morning every night.
It's good.
Like I was just people watching. I don't drink, so I was just enjoying watching people stumble in, and then like even some of the guests, like one of the what's that show where they play pranks on people? Impractical Jokers. Yeah. The main guy, he every night he lost his hotel key, so he would come to the reception and get another one. So every night I watched him like walking around, blah blah blah. So you see these people like interacting. It's just so odd, like, you know, fly on the wall. So it's fun. Stay in that hotel if you're gonna go. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, that is cool. I can't say I really had any celebrity interactions. Steph and I did go to the Milo Ventimiglia, Justin Hartley sci-fi panel on the live stage. That was cool. That was fun. Steph was especially excited.
I'm sure. Yeah. You know, it's funny you mention that though. It's like, cause that show's huge, but it targets like a different demographic. So we deliberately went after those guys to try and court that demographic. And I walked into their panel on the main stage, which seats like 1,300 people. And it was just like a sea of moms, like just mom city. Like I was like, you people have never been to a comic convention before.
It's very smart. So they're actually, I think, a perfect pair because yes, you can tap into that This Is Us audience, but they have the comic book genre
Heroes.
connection. Yep.
Heroes and Smallville.
Why? I have Justin Hartley's Pop right here, right in front of me. So yeah, no, I like that. Makes a lot
they
of
were
sense.
a big hit.
Their panel was great. So they did the thing on the live stage, and then they did another panel. I think like right after. So I just saw the first one, but yeah, no, it was really cool. It was a lot of fun to see that.
That's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Did you like the show? Did you have a cool time? Like both of you, like what? Like I think we put a lot of effort into making it like a really cool local down home family camaraderie vibe, and I think we take a lot of pride in trying to do that. So like, did you guys get that? Like,
oh yeah,
okay,
that's the vibe that I'm saying. I never really sat down and said, why is this my favorite show? It has a feel to it that I just really like, and like he said, part of it's not being completely squished in, being able to move around, do things, but you get that awesomeness of the giant shows with like a small show feel. And a lot of people go to the small shows because they hate how crazy the big shows are. And I feel like this, you get both worlds. Like you get all the access to all the great things at the big shows, but you know, I really do feel like I'm at like a local show or something like that, which is, I don't know how it works, but it works. So good job.
I think a lot of it is the building, just because it's so big.
Yeah,
like,
I know that.
It does make such a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we could just grow and grow and grow, and it'd probably still have that feeling.
Yeah, and that's
there's
great.
Just so much room for us, which is exciting. But it means we'll probably never sell out ever.
But who cares? You know, that's good. It gives you. I mean, you can artificially sell out. You know what I mean? But like, that's just more access and more people that are happy. I guess, you know.
So you're already working on the next one?
Oh yeah, we're starting.
But you went to, where'd you go right after the show?
I went to Disney World.
You went to
Disney World.
Yeah. I was like, I earned this.
You're
I'm
a
gonna go Blossom.
you
I'm a
like
huge
okay.
Disney parks guy.
Right.
That's the one thing.
Chris just made a face, not a
No. I'm thinking I have to drive to Florida in like 3 weeks.
Are you
I'm
a
not
Disney
looking forward
guy
to it.
yourself?
Oh, I do like Disney. Yeah.
I'm in the minority here. I don't like
dude,
it.
I like
kill for
Universal
it.
better, but I like the overall Disney theme. I like the rides better. You know what I mean? But Disney's Disney.
that's the one thing I missed the most from being at Marvel. So I used to get free Disney admission.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it was very expensive.
You have to give them a drop of blood at the entrance, and they scan your eyeball.
Yeah.
Well, like Steph and her whole family, like they are big into
they're Disney
Disney.
Park
Steph
people?
and her mom now have unlimited passes.
Oh God, that's expensive.
You
It
know.
is, yeah. It's like $500 or $600 a year.
Yeah, Steph just
If I
went
went
once,
at-
and now she has
yeah.
2 trips already lined up before
That's the
the
thing.
year
It's
is
like
out.
if you're gonna go more than once, it makes sense.
Yeah, you have.
Yes,
I mean,
you know.
it's literally we went for one day and it was over $100
Yeah.
last year when we drove through. Yeah, it's crazy, but it's fun. That's cool.
Yeah,
You got
let's
to
say you
go.
went to. It's so funny. Well, again, you like it, so it's different. Because for me, it's like after working that hard, like the last thing I would want to do is go to Disney and wait in line and walk around the parks.
Yeah, it's more
Well,
work.
you know what? That was, I will admit, that was a miscalculation on my part. Because like I'm now really tired. Like today was my first day back in the office, and but even and I'll say we didn't even do that much. Like my best friend Andrew, was going down to run the Star Wars marathons, and I was like, well, I'll just come with you. So this motherfucker's getting up at 3 a.m. to run a half marathon, and I'm just sleeping in. And then we would go to the park in the afternoon and take it easy. So we didn't even like do a whole lot, but like I'm exhausted. So it was a miscalculation on my part for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm glad we were able to get you for this episode.
Yeah, my
Then.
pleasure.
Yeah. No, I got to tell you, like it's been. Oh, obviously, you guys are out there grinding very hard. But this past month for me, between the show and then the filming and everything, and
That's a lot.
fulfilling Kickstarter rewards and all that stuff,
Yeah.
like I've really been looking forward to just doing
Sitting
this
down.
because I'm like, oh, just like sit down for an hour and talk. It'll be really relaxing.
No,
And
it is.
has
It's
been.
enjoyable. That's why I like doing it too.
It's
So,
like
thanks.
it really is therapeutic.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, there's a lot to be said. I mean, it's nice to talk to your friends, but it's fun to have like some overall theme to it too, you know. So I look forward to it.
Yeah, no, this is really the only time I talk to you guys. So
Dude, anytime. We'll come back. You don't even need to record us. We'll just come back
Yeah,
and shoot
we'll
the
just
shit.
talk.
Yeah.
I know. I always say it. If I had more time, I would want us to do like an ongoing Power Rangers thing.
I would love that.
There's new pops coming out. I don't know if you
Oh,
saw
what are they-
Goldar and
Wait, what?
yeah, there's a whole wave coming out.
Oh my! I did not know about
Yeah.
this.
Did I
They
tell
didn't
you
show them yet, but
I tell you guys I rewatched the movie recently.
oh yeah,
It's
What, the-
awesome.
the new one?
It's awesome. It still holds up. I'm so
I haven't
happy.
seen it since
It's
we
so
did this
good.
show.
Good.
Oh, they're not making another one,
Yeah, I know. It's a
Yeah, I
bummer.
think
It's a real
dead in
bummer.
the water.
unfortunately. Read Shattered Grid. It's fucking awesome.
I've gotta
Sorry, I
catch
didn't mean
up.
to curse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
Demonetized.
cursed before, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bleep that out.
No, I don't think that's our first expletive in this. It's all right. But yeah, no, I mean the Power Rangers thing is something I would want to do more. That was probably the most self-indulgent pair of episodes that I did last
Hey,
season.
you know what? You have to indulge every now and again, right?
Yeah. I mean, at some point I'll do Smallville
Okay.
episode.
I would like to be there for that.
Yeah?
I have some hot takes.
All right.
I feel like I wasted a lot of time on that show. I know
It's-
we've talked about this before.
Yeah. It's inevitable. It's like at some point I will podcast about it in some form, whether it's an episode or a mini series or something. I don't know. But I got to do something about it. Maybe when an anniversary comes along.
You could do one episode a season. Do just like a 10-episode podcast series or something.
Could do something like that.
I mean, there's definitely a
Keep it
fan
brief.
base out there for it. I mean, you know, that's probably easy to do a whole show.
It's the precursor to the fact that we have like 2 hours of superhero shows on every night of the week.
That's right.
It was the first one.
Yeah. The show left quite a legacy. And Allison Mack.
A real
Yeah.
legacy.
Oh boy.
But I don't know. What else didn't we talk about with respect to C2E2 that we should? What else did you guys want to share? What stood out to you?
I don't know.
I mean, I want to hear from you guys. Like, I have a lot of things that I could say, but it's like, I don't know. It feels so, like you said, it feels self-indulgent.
No,
Like, I
but
put it
that's
together,
the.
you know?
I mean, if I was a listener, that's the stuff that you want to be listening for. You know what I mean?
I had a lot of happy crying happening. I'm not ashamed to admit. Like we did. I'll tell two very brief stories if you'll indulge
for
me.
it.
We did a thing for. It's actually a queue from Disney for fans. Called Golden Tickets, and it was just kind of like a thing. Like would have a bunch in my pocket, and like if someone was having a really bad day or someone was just being really cool, we could go up to them and give them this golden ticket. And what it would do would be like, you could jump the line in a panel, or you could jump the line in an autographing, and like I would hand it to you, and I would write what your panel is, and like I would sign my name, and then that person could just like take it with them, and then the staff member at whatever section of the show would know what to do. And it was just a way to reward fans, but also like, you know, if someone's like, if we screwed something up for someone, like this is a make good we could do. And I had a really good night on Saturday. Like I said, we really hit our stride, and I came out to outside the bar. and I overheard a conversation of a young gentleman, and he was sitting down with a group of people he'd never met. He was introducing himself, and he was like, "This is my first ever convention. I've never been to one of these. I'm here to see Critical Role." If you guys don't know, Critical Role is like a podcast where voice actors play Dungeons and Dragons. It's like a huge thing. Their fans are insane, and they come out in force. So this dude was like meeting new people, and you could tell he was like putting himself out there. He wanted to be friendly and like wanted to get the most out of his C2E2. And he's like, "I'm here for Critical Role. I'm such a big fan. I drove here for this. Like, I really just want to see them." So like I said before, I'm looking very official. I have my zip up windbreaker. I've got my earpiece in. I look like a Secret Service person. And I walk over and I just tap him on the shoulder and I say, "Come here for a second." And he gets up from this group of
You're in
people.
trouble.
But he gets
You're
up
out
from
of the show.
He gets up from these group of people that he just met, and like they're like, "Oh no, what did he do? We just met this guy. Is he like a murderer or something?" And I was like, I hope you don't mind. I overheard you. You're here for Critical Role. Like, I'm Chris. I'm with C2E2. I want to give you something. And I go in my pocket and I get out a ticket and I said, "How many people are you with?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm here with 6 people." Like, and I wrote it down on the card and I was like, "You go give this to the guy at the main stage panel tomorrow. They're going to put you right in the front for the Critical Role panel." And like, his face just melted. Like he was just like, I can't believe this happened. Like, I'm so excited. Like, thank you so much. Like, and I was like, "This is your first C2E2?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Come back next year." And he said, "I definitely will." And like, that just made my day.
No, that's
like,
awesome.
It was so
That's-
cool. And like, just
I love
if I
stuff
could do
like
something
that.
small for someone, like it made me so happy that he was happy.
And it's cool to see that at like a mega show, like even at the small show, everyone gets so jaded and they're like, no one gives a shit about anybody, and I hate that. You know what I mean? It's cool to see.
That's
really
nice.
sweet.
You could have messed with him though when he was like,
Yeah, I
6
could've,
people. You should have been like, "Well, pick your favorite."
I'm sorry to let you know that the Critical Role panel's been canceled.
Yeah. We should be like 6. That's too many. And then what was the other thing?
Oh, well, that almost on a larger scale. This almost works better if you know the building, but if you go up to where the panel hall is, like right past where your panel room is, where the main stage is, and it lets out into a gigantic lobby, and then you kind of like have to walk all the way back down the hallway. And we went out in August of 2017, and I hadn't been in the building for like a year at that point. And we're touring the building, and we're thinking about what we're going to do this year. And I'm like, I think I mentioned before that we do a big cosplay competition. It's like the premier event of C2E2 with, people from all over the world. I'm like, we could do like a really killer after party in this lobby so that when the 1,500 people that are in the main stage come out after the competition, like, we can just keep them here. They don't have to just go home. Like, they leave the theater and they're in a party. So like from word one, like I planned this whole after party so that like people would go in and they'd come back out and it would be transformed as much as we could. Like, there would be photo ops, there would be a DJ there would be bar carts and tables. And it worked. Like, they'd never done this before, and it was such a hit. So like, people come out, and like, as soon as the doors open from the competition, the party starts, and like the DJ hits play basically. And I think we all thought it was going to be decent, but like, it was a huge success. And I was standing one floor up with my own drink, just kind of like standing at the edge, taking it in. Yeah. And like, all these people were having so much fun. And there was this guy on the dance floor dancing with one of those big FX lightsabers. And he's swinging it around on the dance floor. And like, it was just such a cool moment. Like, those people are going to remember that night for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to know that I did it, but I did it. And,
that's
and
awesome.
They're not going to, but they're just going to remember the fun they had. And like, that's so cool. And I had never experienced anything like that. And stuff like that, it makes this place that I work and putting these things together like the most fulfilling thing on the planet. And it's awesome. And it was just so cool to see. And like, I just can't wait to do it again. Well, maybe awesome. Again, because that first day was a little dicey, but
no, but I bet you next year it won't be as bad. You'll get used to it, and you'll have a lot of like. There's always going to be something, right?
Yeah, that's what everyone said. They were like, "This happens every year."
There's always going to be something, but like every year you learn one less thing that you have to not know about, right? So you'll be fine.
Well, congrats on your first
Thanks,
C2E2. I look forward to future ReedPOP productions.
Oh, dude, you better submit a panel again next year.
All right, I'll go for it. Yeah, I go back to Chicago, try some more deep dish pizza. or you go to some of those hot dog
Hot
places.
dogs. Oh man, they're so good.
Yeah, you're really big on those hot dogs.
They're so good. And you know, it's really hard to find them in New York, you know.
Like
That's
a
the thing with
Chicago-style hot
Chicago
dog?
pizza. You're not finding the pizza here, and you're not really finding the hot dogs here, you know. So it is really like you got to get them while you're there.
Before I let you guys go, Chris, you know, I follow you. I know there's always some mishap that you seem
That's
to
for
you seem to encounter. How was the Chicago trip for you? Anything go awry?
No.
Smooth
Last
sailing?
year I got like the worst food poisoning ever and had to drive 17 hours home.
I remember that.
It's all up downhill from there, you know. But this was pretty uneventful. Other than us, you know, we were gone for like 2 weeks because like I said, we went to DC and then basically straight to Chicago, straight back. I would have liked to have had a day there, you know, to unwind. But no, yeah, it was pretty uneventful, I gotta say, you know, as far as these things go.
Well, we can get into this more when we talk more about your travels. But just real quick, recently I saw like a wind blew over one of your racks.
Oh yeah, that happened
What
this
was that?
weekend. It was just really windy, and we put the rack, and I literally turned away for like 1 second, and these are like 8 feet tall, you know, and I just in slow motion, I just watched it do this, and every pop just falls out, and then the rack falls on them. I'm like, oh my god! And they're not light, you know. So then, like, these Ghostbusters came running over because they were there for the local Ghostbusters group. Like, so they come running over. They're like, and they're helping us put the stuff back on. But it took like an hour to get everything off the floor and onto the. And of course, the only things that got damaged were the $60 ones, and none of the cheap ones.
Yeah, none of the $8 ones.
But
where was this?
It was in Hudson Valley Comic Con.
Were you outside or were you inside?
Yeah, we were outside unloading. Yeah, that's why. But it was just like insane winds. So yeah, you know. But that's the first time that's ever happened. So that's nice.
All right.
Never had a rack fall on anybody.
Well, yeah. Well, this is an interesting world. We'll continue exploring it over the rest of this season. I want to thank you both so much for being here. This was really a blast.
Anytime,
I love
man.
it.
So, and again, Chris, of course, thank you for being a sponsor. Delano, thank you for the opportunity
for
to
being
do the
a
panel.
friend.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing cool content to the show.
Yeah, well, it's again, it was really fun to do, and as you guys know, I always like exploring the retail side, and it seems like people are into it, so that's cool.
It's a weird world.
It is a weird world, and like it's just interesting, and it's something that doesn't get talked about enough, and that's part of the reason why I wanted it there. Yeah. We're a very comic focused show. C2E2 is much more comic-y than some of the other shows.
Yeah. Well, it's a great show. I mean, for anyone listening to this who hasn't gone and like they might be on the fence about going, hopefully this convinces them to go.
It'd be great.
Because it really is. It's a terrific show, and if you have the opportunity to go and make the trip, really do recommend.
Yeah, seriously. Like again, it is my favorite show, and it's a great city, and you don't have to deal with like the headache of like refreshing, hoping you're going to get tickets, and it's still an awesome. It's just all the headaches are gone, and you have a fun show. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Well, thank you both. Thank you to everyone for listening. We'll be back with a new episode in 2 weeks. And until then, don't be a flat squirrel.